everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of The Mixing Glass. We have something very cool that's going to happen during the episode, but I have to bring in my co-host first. Mike, how are we doing today?
Hey, I'm so good. It's been so long since I've seen you, John. It's good to be here.
I know, it's so crazy. It's only been like 10 minutes. It's kind of a wild ride.
It's not like I just won another round of Hey Bartender, but we'll leave that for another time.
I am so freaking proud of you. You did so good.
I just feel like you're giving me points just so that way you're just boosting my ego. I think that's what
I would never do that. That is not something I would ever do. I might give you inspiration, as a dungeon master.
Appreciate that.
I might give you that, but not much more. So we have something that's going to be really fun tonight. We don't have guests come back on the show super often for a repeat, but this guest had some really amazing topics that we did not get to dive into all the way. And I think that they are so important. He has an amazing mind for these. And I think that we really need to dive into these a little bit further. So I want to welcome back to the show, Devin Chapnick. Devin, how are we doing?
My amazing mind is starting to reach the airwaves of the internet.
Okay. This is further proof, Mike, that we shouldn't play these games before these episodes as a warm-up.
Well, people get too comfortable. Is that what you're saying? I love people ready. He just comes in channeling the podcast. I
feel like I'm in the hot seat now. They need to be in the hot seat.
Good.
When we
Tables
these
are turned.
Great,
The
thank
turns
you.
have tabled.
Well, the game starts playing you. That's kind of where we're at now. But no, truly, Devin, thank you for coming back. You're the owner of Convenient Cocktail Company. You've had some amazing, stories to tell from the industry. And if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't checked out part 1, you should go over and check out part 1 because it's really great. We made some really great dad jokes too. I'm very proud of our Lindberghers jokes. Like, those are absolutely fantastic. So you need to jump in there and check those out. But also to listen to his story.
Yeah, thank you so much, John and Michael. Though you have won this round, I will be back.
Good.
I'll tell you what, Devin, if you bring a friend to play the game, we'll invite you back for another round of Hey Bartender.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I have at least one of those.
Oh, thank God.
At least one willing to play. At least one willing to play. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
That's fair.
I got some bucks lying around. I can dole out some cash.
Yes. Now we do like to start the episode with roll for initiative. I know you've rolled for initiative before, but it's a fun part of the show, and I think it's important that we jump in there with a little icebreaker. So why don't you roll that D20 and show us what you got?
Yeah, a little icebreaker.
All right.
But ice isn't broken yet at all.
a middle 10.
Nice.
Okay, a middle 10, middle of the road. Devin, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Oh man, is it the intrusive thoughts in my head that I have constantly about everything around me?
No, that's just existing. Stop.
You're not supposed to tell people about that, but
when the voices start talking back, we have problems.
My biggest pet peeve. I think that my biggest pet peeve. Oh, this is hard. I have so many pet peeves.
Yeah, what's the current one in your brain? We could do a whole episode about just pet peeves, but I think it's a real thing.
Oh my God, I feel like I was so prepared for the nerdy questions, and like something so simple as like, hey, what gets on your nerves?
All right.
I'm like, man,
now he's in the hot seat. Now he's in the hot seat. This is where I wanted him. All right. We're back, baby.
Okay, I think my biggest pet peeve is when I am talking to someone and I am like either asking them a question about something that I need, and they ask me, why are you asking that? And I'm like, because I just really need to know. Like, hey, where did you put the something? And they say, why? And I'm like, please, I just need to know where the thing is. And then I noticed that I also do this too. So really, it really is the intrusive thoughts craning in on themselves that cause all of my anxiety and issues.
Is your child at the age where they always ask why? Because that's got to be wild.
No, he just screams, which is, but it might be grating, but I know that the more existential his like development is going, it's going to really, really stress me out. So I'm living in the halcyon days of just.
Thank you for not screaming that into the mic.
Right, I was demonstrating. He goes like today. Oh man, today he was just like, I just got home from work, and my wife had been with him all day, and she was like, oh hey, I saw she works with us at Convenient Cocktail. She's like, oh by the way, like you have to check out this email. It is kind of a spicy email. And I was like, oh, I had to, go and have a meeting before I came home, before I came back here too. And she's like, I just like, it's okay. Like, just take a look at it. And I'm like reading this email. And then all of a sudden my son just like walks up and just says,
wait, how old is your son?
He's 16 months.
Okay,
so he's like,
if he's 16 years old, that's a problem.
Now he's messing with you.
Yeah, I mean, he's at the point now where he's like trying to form sentences.
Mm-hmm.
He can say dada, mama, and not like with the exact accuracy that like he means, but he can say those words. He can say night night sometimes, but he's like blah 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 blah, and we're like, yeah, sure, yeah, we also love your sloth, like we love your like stuffed sloth,
That's why he's screaming at you. He's like, you quit patronizing me, all right? I have things to say.
Yeah, I know, man. I feel the same way.
Oh my
God. And I'm all like, why? And he's all like, God, this guy just doesn't get me.
He just doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it.
All he does is ask why. Mike, what's your current pet peeve?
We did this one last time, right? Okay. This one. It actually brings me to like actual rage, but like people smacking their food and stuff, like making unnecessary noises when they eat. Like, and it happens because I like to watch videos of people trying exotic foods, but then like I'm interested. Like I watched.
I know you sent me a couple the other day.
Yeah, what's it called? The balut, right? The chicken.
Yeah,
in
from
the egg,
from Bobby Mercier's episode.
Yeah, the egg fetus, and I wanted to see what that was like. And I was interested to see the whole eating process, but then she's like, I'm like,
no, stop that. I got to put a disclaimer in now.
I know. So that's it. Just fucking chew your mouth. Or see, I'm getting upset. All
right, I'm going to go so you can chill for a
close
sec.
Your mouth.
One of the reasons I love when people roll number 10 is because I have a lot of pet peeves, like Devin mentioned. And so I get to just talk about all of them because I have so many. So this pet peeve is brought to you by emails. It's whenever I sign my name on an email and then they email me back and spell my name wrong. Drives me crazy.
Well, because yours is just Jon, right?
It's just Jon.
Yeah,
it's just Jon. I always get John, or they misspell. They just assume it's Jonathan. It is, but they just spell it wrong.
I'm gonna remember this.
Thanks, Mike. Great.
I'm gonna start calling you like Clyde and stuff like that. Really take it to the next level.
Perfect. But to me, it's just like, did you even read what I had to say? Right? Like, there's like a level of intent. There's a level of follow through, and like, if you really want me to take you seriously when you send me an email, at least spell my name right.
Thanks, Jam.
Yeah, yeah, because everything after that, it's a suspect, right? If they didn't read your name,
I'm done tonight.
Okay, I think I have a different pet peeve, and I'll tell you what it is right now. It's when people say "nice to virtually meet you" in an email. It drives
nice to meet you.
Nice to virtually meet you, and I'm like, can we just meet here right now in this message? Like, can this not be it? Like, why am I to virtually meet you? I think that's what it is.
That happens a lot. And it is a particular type of person that does send that email and words it like that.
But the thing is that like everyone's done it to me. So it's like, what am I not going to do it? Like,
yes, don't do it.
Yes, be the change you wish to see in the world.
By the power of Al Gore's tubes, I have met you.
Oh, God damn it. Okay, we got to stop. Let's get into the episode. You know, the real reason we brought you back on the podcast, not to talk about pet peeves or Al Gore's tubes or your son who screams at you. Let's jump into the meat. So something that you've done with Convenient Cocktail Company is start your own business. And in our last episode, we talked about how you kind of started that business. But I think other people might really want to know what it's like to start a business. And so I kind of want to pick your brain on, what that process has started to look like for you as you continue to grow your company and how you decided to really take that risk.
Yeah, so I think that like the seeds of like entrepreneurship or whatever, was definitely something that I experienced from being in the workplace and constantly feeling unsatisfied. I think that like we had talked on the last time about how whenever I worked for someone or like worked under a supervisor, I never like wanted their job. I just believed that I could do it better than they could. And I feel like a lot of my peers have that mentality. I think like, it's almost natural, I think, for a lot of bartenders to experience that, because to be a bartender is to like commit yourself to being on the line, to like make decisions in the moment, to know enough to like show up and to be on the front lines of service. So like that mentality of like I can do this and I can do this better is like how a lot of people I think find bartending. So when I was in the industry, like I always had this feeling that I was going to start a business. I actually started my first business in 2014, making tonic syrup, as I mentioned in the last episode, and that was like a really unique experience, and it ended up not working out because my business partner I was more focused on production and he on business, and he wasn't. I don't know. We took off more than we could chew, and I wasn't concerned necessarily with like what it took to make the thing happen, and I was just focused on the product, if that makes sense. And because of my lack of involvement, it got to a point where we just had to shut it down because it was just not making money and things were happening quickly and not in the direction we needed. So after that like experience, like that actually how I found bartending and cocktail bartending. I had been behind the bar before in the craft beer industry, but like the seeds of like I guess ambition is like a word, but like this pursuit of creation, which also kind of aligns with like bartender mentality of like creating something, something that is an amalgamation of things that you learned with the present context of where you're at, connecting with the people who are purchasing the product in front of you. Like all those things are entrepreneurial like tethers. So like if you think about business, opening a business is you're trying to solve a problem, and you're trying to create something that's going to solve that problem. As a bartender, you're doing that like kind of constantly. You're constantly doing creative problem solving and creating and like having this level of just like constantly fixing and correcting and like cooperating with the people in front of you. And that is really what it takes to run a business, a small business, at least.
So I think that this is a really interesting point, that in a lot of restaurants, if the manager isn't there, a lot of staff looks to the bartender as the kind of person to solve the problems, right? A lot of times the bartenders stay later than the servers. They end up becoming like the key holders and locking the doors for them, doing the cash drops, helping people check out. And a lot of times managers don't even have bartending experience. So they kind of just let you become this island unto yourself behind the bar, where you're kind of just like doing your own thing anyways. That entrepreneurial spirit kind of just happens because it has to. I'm not saying it's a necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but it definitely leans, like you said, into that creating a business, just like you said that you did. So definitely believable.
Yeah, I think that like being on an island thing is a very common experience for bartenders. Like, being 5 deep and having no backup, and you're the only person there to satisfy these people, make money, make yourself money, right? And then leave with like your, identity and like self-worth intact, right? Like you find yourself in the hole and you dig your way out and you feel good afterwards because you did it, and like you did that. And even though like, the manager who's supposed to be there has been gone for 2 hours and you have to like start 5 different tabs because 4 different cards got declined and you, for some reason, don't have the ability to delete items off the
You
thing.
can't
Like,
comp or void, but you're the only person in the building handling cash. Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, like the amount of like, again, creative problem solving is like so necessary for a bartender, particularly when it comes to like things like safety, right? Like you are responsible. You are the responsible party for when shit goes down. People rely on you, and like it's like what I tell bartenders. I say, hey, like it doesn't matter who's here, who's not. If you're serving liquor, like you are in charge. There's no one else in charge. Like if you are selling alcohol, you are in charge. And there's 2 rules when you're behind the bar. That your number 1 rule is like you are in charge of safety, and the number 2 rule is you are in charge of fun, and you decide what is fun and what is not fun, and that's it. Like there's no one else here. Like if you're selling alcohol, and you have to be responsible for that, that's why we take tips, and that's like why we take all these like alcohol serving thing, because it like truly shit is on the line. Having that mentality is like I think essential for both small business or business in general, the responsibility, and then obviously serving alcohol. Like you have to be responsible for that.
If I could jump in with a quick interjection, just speaking on serving and bartending being like the entire, like a microcosm of being an entrepreneur. Barbara Sloan from Tip Finance, I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but Forbes accredited author, worked in the service industry for years and years and years. And she wrote a book on basically helping tipped employees learn to manage their finances and turn their tips into wealth. But she talks about that exactly, about how being a server and a bartender, you're selling the product, you're doing guest relations, you're handling money, you're learning all those key facets of what it's like to actually run a small business, even though it's just in that exchange of being a server or a bartender. And it really does teach you those skills, and you can, translate them into like an actual business of your own. So I really picked up on that when you were talking about that, because she describes that like very in detail in her book.
And marketing too. How many bartenders post, hey, I'm working here on Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm working here on Saturday night. Like you're learning all those other things, and then how to advocate for yourself. Like it's kind of like you said, Devin, it's a one-stop shop for being your own business. It's like
absolutely.
So what led you to dare to be stupid and take the jump?
That's like, when I'm summing up the I think I said that starting a business, you're solving a problem, but I can sum it up by saying like you're out to solve a problem by creating an infinite world of problems for yourself. So it is incredibly stupid. And yet it's the thing that I feel the call to do, which is just, So I moved to Chattanooga with my wife, and we wanted to, and I've been working on this like bar concept since I was working with Sage in Denver, and like, really inspired by like tropical drinks, and something that like I've been really like trying to create this like vision of this bar. And then I moved to Chattanooga, and how Convenient Cocktail started was just like, I met a guy, we became really great friends. It was, kind of his idea, and then we just both ran with it. But I had been working on this bar concept. And I think that another huge factor for like small business is like flexibility, finding the niche, seizing opportunity. And like all those are fucking buzzwords or whatever, like seizing opportunity. Like, do I have the capital to open a bar right now? No. Do I have a unique enough idea to like get investors? Maybe. Like I could, put that together. But what did I have in front of me? I had someone with a really solid idea, and my background in production, I also knew. And like we could start it with like less than $2,000. So like that was the opportunity that was in front of me, and the creating of a product that was like, you know, something that I believed in was, you know, it just as like, you know, important as like if someone sat down at the bar and was like, hey, I love a 20th century cocktail, you know, can you make it? And I'm like, do I have the things? Not exactly, but I can make something close, right? And then they had this really great experience. I had this great experience of like creating something that I wasn't expected to, and like trying really hard. I can like pull those kind of threads of like how I, you know, really loved being in the moment and creating those like special moments and seizing that opportunity of like, you know, what was in front of me. And that's how I fell into convenient cocktail. And yeah, I think that it really was like this perfect storm of, I'd never expected to go back into like consumer packaged goods or whatever, but it just, the more I thought about it and what was like available to me, it was just like, it was my son was about to be born. I, you know, all these factors just kind of line into place, and I was like, this is it, and we should do it. And here we are.
So I think you said something that's really important, and I want to unpack this a little bit. You said you had somebody with a really great idea that you could do now for less than $2,000. What is an actionable goal? Because that is the key, I think, to starting a small business. What can I do now with what I have that will lead me to step 2, that will lead me to step 3, to step 4, and eventually get to that end goal? I think so many people try and sprint to the finish line without taking a little bit of time to lay the groundwork for the foundation that will eventually get you to that finish line. You know, I think what you said is absolutely perfect. You know, put those little things together and make it happen.
Yeah, or they don't start because they're only thinking about what the challenge is. Like they don't start because they're thinking, what, how can I get to opening a bar? Like, or how could I get to having a national brand or whatever? Like all those, that's like the part about the daring to be stupid. It's like, yes, it seems impossible, and yes, it is stupid, but like, could you do something right now? One of my mentors was like, talk about like, it told me about speed to market and like how important it is. Like, could you get something to market? Like, could you make something that is like, the, you know, that embodies what you're trying to do fast enough, and, you know, at least put together enough to be something that you could sell for money? Like, you know, focus on that. Like, what is the minimum viable product over there? I'm not like a business guy. Like, I didn't go to business school. You know,
You were a bartender who was his own business.
Bartender, right? Yeah. You know, I saw a need, and we're filling it, right? I was my own business. And like, you know, the minimum viable product was like an interesting framework for, was like, okay, this went from being like something that we were just like, all right, let's just do it on the week, you know, on the weekdays or whatever, and see if anyone buys it, to like, okay, now we actually could, like, what is the minimum amount that we could do, that we could put in front of someone, and at least if they say no, we like learn from that experience, adjust, and try again.
Yeah, that's just like D&D, right? Like
we reach a door.
Yeah, easier to be stupid in D&D for sure. Well, and you know, I know the
cost less.
Yeah, it costs a lot less. I know those books
unless you're a dice goblin. Yeah, there's a rabbit hole everywhere. You fall down.
But I know that the dare to be stupid is kind of tongue in cheek because, you know, not to sound cheesy or anything, but you know, courage and stupid are two sides of the same coin. You know, and from that first endeavor that you tried, that you and your business partner had to walk away from, I imagine that you learned some lessons from that helped you be more successful with the operation that you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that like I was more concerned with I just wasn't hands in, you know, like all hands in on everything, and I didn't understand things, and I trusted. I mean, maybe it's not even about trust. It's just about like, about doing the minimum that I needed to do, and like, you know, I learned so much about myself in that time, and like what I was willing to do, and like what it is to talk about a product and create a product and connect with other people through something that you make that isn't like right in front of you, which is so strange because like I spent so much time after that in the craft cocktail world, which is so much of that experience, but like immediate, versus like craft beer, you know, it is similar. You know, I was definitely part of like the production aspects of it as well. And like I did barrel programs, I did, you know, especially one-off beers that, you know, like that's in itself connecting with people and creating something, but like nothing is quite as like immediate and as satisfying as like literally creating something that had never existed before to extent with someone right in front of you, you know.
You get to
So
watch
it's just
their
kind of funny.
face.
Yeah,
You get to watch their
absolutely.
experiences. I mean, how many chefs cook food and don't get to watch their guests take that first bite, right? We get to do that as bartenders, or at least Mike used to when he was a bartender.
I never
I
liked
mean,
it.
I don't bartend anymore either.
I don't either. But this is great. It's a bartending podcast with no bartending. Well,
No, I bartended for an event. I'm also like in the process of consulting for a bar that's opening up very soon, and I'm very excited about it. And I bartended an event there a few weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, man, I had I had three cocktails on the limited event cocktail because we're like previewing some stuff, and I was like, yeah, man, I got this, and I had so much fun, and like, all the two servers are just like busting their ass, they're working really hard, and I'm just like, hey, man, can I do anything? Like, I like batched all the cocktails, and like everything's flying so easy off the bar, and I'm just like, man, I almost feel bad because I'm just like sitting here just like, hey, I'll bang out these 5 drinks in like, I don't know, a minute, I'll be right back, you know, like.
that's the reward though for putting in the work and having experience, right? That's that story about, you know, the old man that goes into the ship and he charges like the company $10,000 and he walks down with a hammer and hits one pipe. And they're like, you did one thing. Why'd you charge me so much money? And he's like, well, I have years of experience that allowed me to know exactly where to hit that pipe at the exact right time. So that way you only have to fix this one time.
Yeah.
Right? That's you. You put in all of the work.
Wait, he's charging $10,000? Shit, man, I got to get my rates up.
Yeah, well, he's like a 300-year-old elf, Nini.
Oh.
He can do that. It's inflation over time, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back in my day.
So I want to segue to a different topic because you talked about, you know, doing the consulting work with some friends, and I know you're talking about Mean Jeans because we shouted them out in the last episode. But you have another topic that you really want to talk about, and it's how to advocate for your peers and still pay rent. No, wait, this is a real question. I need help.
Yes.
And these are the people that are your colleagues. So tell me a little bit about this perspective, right? How do you advocate for your peers and still pay your bills as a business owner?
Yeah, I mean, I did definitely ask this as a question because I feel like I need the help for it. But I will say,
this is where I thought you were being facetious.
No, this is a real question. I need help, please. But it's like, you know, so we've definitely connected over like things like Camp Run Amok and Portland Cocktail Week and Tales of the Cocktail. Like all these are like incredible resources for bartenders. But like you know, whenever I like go to one of these events and I come back and I'm like, you know, talking to some people, particularly bartenders who don't like have or aren't in like thinking about bartending as like a career yet, or servers who are like, this is not even on their radar at all. Or most bartenders, that stuff isn't on their radar, right? Like they're just going to work every day. Like, how do we advocate? How do we like bring the conversation of just like, hey, you know how like you get your schedule for next week a day before the week starts? Like,
That's
how do
pet peeve?
I mean,
Put that at the beginning of the episode.
I feel like it's way so more severe than a pet peeve. It's just like so terrible to do that to another human. Like, you are a manager, your job is to give people a schedule, and they like need to have like a life that they're going to plan their life around the schedule, and you do it, you publish it a day before. Like, how dare you think that you own their time? Like, it is so in like these people, these service industry workers don't have the vocabulary to even articulate the like everyday injustice that they face just by existing in this like just out of control relationship. And like I get really upset about, you know, having these common conversations about just something simple like that. Like, it sounds, you know, innocuous, but like, if, you know, now that I'm a parent, literally every minute of my life I need to account for. Like, I never thought about that until recently, about how much not being able to plan your life affects everything. And
Everything.
then complaining about it makes you look like not a team player. Like, you have a responsibility, and like being a small business owner like really shapes that like perspective for me, because like I want this place to be a, you know, at least the bare minimum, which is like, you don't have to worry about like what your life is going to be like in 2 weeks, because you know what the obligations are, and if there is any issues with them, we solve them before the problem happens. You know, so much of this like comes from like a lack of support, right? And that support starts with the owners. And I often find that the owners are well-meaning but ill-equipped to invest in their employees, to create structures of support, and to, you know, just literally give them the bare minimum, which is respect and of their time, and then demand respect of yours too, right? Like, anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at. Like, how do we do that? So, I mean, obviously, like having conversations with each other helps. John, Mike, like having podcasts and, you know, conversations that are easily distributed help. Like, having these conversations, going to Tales of the Cocktail, just knowing that it exists helps some. But like, how do we create a conversation that is lasting, right, and impactful in our own communities? The thing that I like really like want to participate in, but also like, you know, with a healthy dose of like imposter syndrome. Yeah,
it's this right here. It's these conversations, right? The more we talk about it, the more it's out there. I mean, let's talk about it from a base level. How about like our parents, right? It was frowned upon for them to talk about the amount of money that they were making when they were at work, because they were salaried, and the employers didn't want them to know that they should make more money, right? We as a generation are now starting those conversations to make it easier for the people that are younger than us and pave the way forward. But we have to do it. We have to be the ones that lead this, right? And you can't just say it. You have to do it. You talked about scheduling. I write my schedules for my employees a month at a time. They can plan their lives. They can do things. Saying yes, it's life work balance, not work life balance. Work doesn't come first. Life comes first. Take care of your people. Take care of your employees. If something's really important to them, help them do it. Find ways to let them achieve those things. If they want to go on a trip to Kentucky, like you said, Camp Run Amok, and go do bourbon, find some money in the budget to help pay for their flight or put some gas in their tank to get them there, right? Those are like the little things you can do. Invest in them and start advocating for them. Don't just say, hey, this is what I want to do. Actually do it. Get out of your chair and go do things. End rant.
I'm curious too, if I know I brought this up on the last mixing glass that I did with you, but I wonder if Chow has anything specifically related to this. Are you familiar with Chow at all, Devin?
Yeah, I just read about it. But you can.
It's on our website. You can check them out.
Yeah. That's where I saw it. Yeah,
I don't know a tremendous amount about them, but we talked to Jasmine from Chow on the other show that I was doing, and it was just interesting because they have like playbooks specifically for management, because they understand that the people that are managers were not trained necessarily to be managed. They were servers and bartenders that came up, and now they're managers all of a sudden. So they didn't get trained to do this. So instead of putting the responsibility on that individual to say, well, you have to figure this out, they are trying to provide resources to operations to be like, here's a playbook on how you can handle this and work through it with your team. Because ultimately the goal is for the business to be successful and everybody to feel like they're a part of it. And, you know, while you were talking about scheduling and stuff, I've never had to write a schedule, so I don't understand the, you know, complexity and the difficulties involved with that. One of the reasons that I loved working as a bartender and a server in college was because of the flexibility, to where, because there'd be sometimes that people would be wanting to take time off, and I can pull extra shifts now to make some more money, so that way this trip that I want to go take is going to be available. But it was one of those things to where there were people working there that were going to college. There were people there that had been in the service industry for 30 years. There were parents, there were, you know, fuck offs and everything else. So managing that weird dynamic of all these different people, I could just see how difficult it could be sometimes to literally try and set a schedule that works for a parent trying to raise a child and for the college student that's trying to, you know, just party and get to class, you know, 2 or 3 days a week. So, but I do think that the biggest thing is having the conversations. And even though that sounds so simple, every restaurant, every business, every person is so different that it's not always an easy thing to just go to an owner or a manager and have a very calm and civil conversation. You could go in there with the best of intentions, and that conversation could devolve now into some kind of weird personal grudge that a person has against you because you dared to bring this issue up to them. So it's tricky territory. And I agree. I think the conversations are where it starts, but it's going to be different for every person and every place that, you know, every place that employs people.
Now, as for like the second half of the question, and still pay rent, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about all these things that we want to do for our employees and like take care of them. I still am of the mindset that if you take care of your people and invest in them, they will invest in you. And eventually you will be able to pay rent. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, especially as a new business owner. You're going to run in deficit for a little while. And that kind of stinks. That's really hard. I mean, my first like big boy cocktail bar job, I remember there were 3 owners, and one of them started the first year at like $60,000 a year, which is great. You as a business owner, factor in a salary for yourself. Pay yourself as a business owner. Figure that out.
If you can.
if you can. But in an ideal world, figure that out, because like you also need to pay your bills and take care of yourself, right? It's not the business isn't just all of you, even though sometimes it ends up being that way. But his first year he went from 60,000. Then the next year he went down to 45. And the next year he went down to 30,000, and he was sleeping in his truck. You know, because he was taking a cut out of it to make the business run. And like that's not sustainable. That's not paying rent. But the turnover was really high in that restaurant. We were hiring new people every other week because people were looking for new things. They were getting ignored. They were seeking different things, right? You had college kids looking for just really high money shifts to pay the bills. And you have adults looking for, you know, healthcare plans and stability in the same shifts every week. And if you don't pay attention to that, eventually you're going to see that result, because one of the most expensive things that you can do in a restaurant is train employees. It is so expensive to train an employee, to onboard them, to pay for their health care. If you're doing that, it is a drain. And if you're doing 5 new employees every month, it's thousands and thousands of dollars over the year.
So this is an interesting point. The drain of training employees, which is like this thing that I think about a lot, and like why I feel like there is this disconnect, because I experience a lot of people who, and I had myself, have been thrown into situations with almost no training, or I you know, have talked to business owners who say like, I don't want to train them too much because they could just take what they've learned and go wherever they else want to go, and like. And I'm like, but at what point are you hurt? Like, are you sacrificing your product by not training? Like, understanding those costs, but also like understanding the value of it is so important. Like, yes, it is a drain. Of course it is. But like, is it not your employees that make up everything that your guests experience?
Yeah. Well, and what John was saying, talking about that fear of training somebody just for them to leave, the idea is that you're trying to cultivate a culture where people want to be a part of it. It's not this BS, we're a family bull crap or any of that, but you're cultivating an environment where people are making the money that they are, that they expect to make, and that it's a place that they enjoy showing up and going to work to. And yeah, I agree. If you invest in those employees, I believe that they will want to stay and continue to see that the thing that you're all creating together continue to thrive.
And isn't the goal for the student to become the teacher anyways?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's true leadership. That's true mentorship. That's really anything. So why would you not invest time into somebody? And okay, you don't have them for forever. Maybe you only have them for 5 years. But guess what you got? 5 years of an incredibly dedicated employee instead of 5 years of hiring somebody every 2 months. That's the difference.
So talking about Portland Cocktail Week, I remember one of the classes that was incredibly impactful for me was a class just on streamlining, taught by Souther Teague, and he talked about how he has like this manifesto for people starting at Amore Margot, and for to kind of sum it up, it really is an expectation versus commitment, and like kind of like where I'm approaching things as far as like my business and how I'm talking to other industry professionals about advocating for the hard conversations with their employers is understanding what the expectation is versus what the expectation is with the commitment. So like, I expect this and this and this and this, but I commit to you this and this and this. So like, if you say, I expect you to work for a certain amount of time, let's say a year, I expect you to be on time for a year, but I commit to you everything that I can teach you, everything that I have learned up to this point, all the contacts and resources at my disposal, I will provide for you freely, and not just freely, like enthusiastically.
Yeah.
But how do I like creating that balance of commitment and expectation, I think could be a foundational product for like a working relationship that is sustainable and repeatable.
Yeah, it starts with your mission statement. It starts with your ideals. It starts with how you're onboarding those employees. You talked about expectations, right? Well, it's also what they can expect from you. You said commitment, but they should also have expectations from you, whether that's a schedule coming out every week, whether that's a steady paycheck coming out every 2 weeks. Like, there has to be a negotiation in the contract. It's not just one-sided the way that it kind of felt like it was 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. I also, and this is speaking from not just service industry jobs, but I also think like responsible accountability, because people make mistakes, people go through rough times in their life where they need a little bit extra help and everything. But at least for me, knowing that from my employers that I have a responsible, like they are holding me responsibly accountable for things, to where if you become a pushover, people, even if they don't mean to, they'll take advantage of it just because they know there's no consequence, and they start to slip. And being able to hold people accountable and have consequences, but still being able to do it professionally and responsibly, I think is so important. And I think so many people want that structure in their life, and it actually helps them thrive where there are clearly defined rules and expectations and consequences if those things aren't met. I think when all those things are laid out, and it's not passive aggressive, it's not, under the table, it's all very clear and out in the open with, focusing on a common goal. That for me personally is something that has really helped me with different employers, is knowing that I do have accountability, and that I do have to do my job, and I have to hold my end of that social contract.
I think something else that's really important too is continuing to build the culture over time. So yeah, okay, you onboarded this employee and you told them your ideals and your goals. But what about checking back in with that employee, right? Whether that's, the yearly review, or maybe you have an open door policy where they can just go, hey, Devin, we just have a check-in? We haven't talked for a while. Can we sit in your office for a little bit and just like chat, figure out what's going on, like with the career, like that kind of thing. Like make sure we're still on like the same progress track, figuring things out, setting up those boundaries so that you have the opportunities to do that over time is also really important too. Because
no, that's like, I think that is, is so interesting to like, you touched on a word, career, which is like a word that's so not associated, or oftentimes is like the antithesis of pursuing jobs in service industry. And like, like, it is this ideal, right? Like, how do we create a sustainable career for these people who like don't have necessarily a ton of mobility, even like when you're in a small business that has 20 employees? Like where is that? And like, I think that's the point that I was trying to make in the beginning, was like well intentioned but like lacking resources, business owners. And like, how do we start these conversations? Like, how does someone who works for someone be like, hey, like, have you thought about sending me to like behind the barrel? Or like, how do we advocate for our peers who just say, hey, you should apply for these things and then you should talk to your owners? Like, what are the, I guess, the common what are like I guess like I'm struggling with, how do I connect with my peers who are in the service industry in my community that feel stagnant and don't feel like they are able to get the resources, or even the people that they work for are uninterested in carving out a pathway for a career.
Yeah, I think that this is what people like us are great for. We know a lot of people around the country. We have connections with amazing individuals that are in the hospitality industry, and maybe we can't do that in our own business, but we can connect our employees with the people that do, right? I mean, that's how we advocate for them. Like, my employees, I have a lot of college kids, or I have people that are moms and stuff, and they are doing other things. I don't even ask them like their career goals in the hospitality industry. I ask them, what are your career goals, period? What do you want to accomplish? I know this job for you isn't going to be forever. It's only going to be 3 years. That's great. But you're in school for, I don't know, wanting to be a marine biologist, right? As an example. Who do I know that I can connect you with in the world of marine biology, from all the people that have sat at my bar over the years, or people in this industry that used to be marine biologists and became bartenders because they enjoyed it more, but they have those connections. So that's how we advocate for them, right? We're active listeners. I think that that's the biggest thing. We do it when we're bartenders, right? We listen to guests all the time. Let's just turn our ears on for real with our employees and not just let it come in one ear out the other, because we're doing a million things behind the scenes and we're stressed the fuck out.
I think too, in the biggest way, that just even coming to this with these goals in mind of how to have these conversations. I know it doesn't get you to the finish line, but I think that's just so important. Just even being the kind of person that is interested in that. Because when I was in the service industry, do you know how many managers ever had conversations like this with me? One of my favorite places that I worked, the manager was banging he was married and banging the server who was dating the bartender. That's what he was worried about. He wasn't worried about my career or did I feel fulfilled at work or anything like that. So I just think even just coming to it with that mentality is just such a good and fresh place to start, just in general.
Yeah. Did that help a tiny little bit, Devin?
Yeah, I think so. I absolutely think so. Like,
you sure you don't want to be a marine biologist? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I like turtles.
I'll throw this one out. I'll throw this out to our listeners too. I mean, we love interacting with you guys. You're part of our community. You guys are why we have this show. Give us some love in the comments whenever we post, the episode for Devin. Give us some advice for this question. I think that this is a really important conversation to have. Drop them in comments on Spotify, whatever your favorite podcasting platform is. Give us your take on it. I want to hear what you have to say. Let's give Devin some of the feedback. I mean, we're an amazing industry across the board. We're all connected. Let's see what we can do. I think that's a great place to start too, right? This podcast is a platform. Let's use it.
Yeah. And Devin, I totally did interrupt you. I apologize. So please finish that thought.
The only thing that remains is I like turtles. So
Okay, see, I ruined it. I ruined it. Just had to make a fucking joke, you know.
God damn it!
No, man,
Okay.
I'm here for the jokes, man. Let's keep it rolling.
All right. So not to divert, but in that moment of comedy, I want to talk about something that we're all very passionate about here. One is bartending, but two, D&D. And I know, Devin, you have a very particular perspective on how these two things intersect, are parallels to one another. So I want to talk a little bit about, bartending and the hero's journey and the parallels of hospitality in D&D. This also could be a Tales of the Cocktail seminar thing.
This is my application. This is my formal application for Tales of the Cocktail 2025.
Yeah, and then we're on the panel. Let's go.
All right. So I was thinking the other day about we were we'd scheduled this conversation. We were talking about D&D and bartending, and I thought to myself, man, running a table is a lot like being a DM is a lot like bartending. You are, greeting people, you're setting the table, setting the scene, you are you are giving them the parameters of what is happening, but you are giving them the space and the tools to create their own experience. And then, ideally in a perfect scenario, they leave fulfilled and talking about it for weeks,
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of digged into what is it about bartending and being a dungeon master? What are the intersections? And I looked into the hero's journey, which, if you're not familiar, it is kind of it is spoken about as the common way of telling compelling stories, and it has some controversy. Some people say this is a bullshit idea, but it was very much popularized by Joseph Campbell in his book, The Hero of a Thousand Faces, which I have not read, but I am going to now because I did a little bit of research, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting.
And you put yourself on blast on a podcast.
Yes. Accountability, self-accountability. And anyway, so I was reading about the hero's journey and about in my time DMing, thinking about setting up a compelling experience. So Joseph Campbell talked about the hero's journey, which had been studied and spoke, thought about for thousands of years. But it's essentially what it is that throughout history there is a common structure of storytelling, and it all centers around a person who goes through a significant amount of self-discovery, transformation, and growth. And the hero's journey, it creates a compelling narrative that resonates with readers on an emotional level. And it was used to create the most memorable works in literature and mythology.
The Odyssey, Siddhartha,
yes.
let's keep going. There's
Beowulf,
all of them.
Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. No, for sure.
But true, it is one of those hero journeys.
Yeah, and it is fundamentally a compelling way to tell a story. That the important aspect of that is that it resonates emotionally with the people that it's connecting with.
Yeah, a shared cultural experience through a journey.
But a universal experience that can transcend specific cultures, but that resonate with the human experience. And why is that like bartending? Well,
you set this up really high.
Yeah.
How is old Sean the bartender on a hero's journey here? Tell me more.
Well, no, it is not you who is on the hero. You are the author.
That's right. I'm on the villain journey.
Yes.
Come on, man.
You are the DM. You are the place setter. You are the host. You are setting the scene for your hero, which is the guest in this analogy, to have this growth and transformation and sense of completion, and be able to take that back, to home, and be able to connect with it. So really what this is about emotional stakes. So the emotional stakes of an experience are like, how invested someone is in the result of the action that is happening in front of them. So like, if someone say like, if a story is not very compelling, that the emotional stakes are not like believable, or they're just not very high. So like, I don't really care about the characters or the things that are happening. So, that might be like, I'm like on the road and I'm like stopping at a McDonald's and I get like a quarter pounder of cheese. Like, my emotional stakes for that is very low. But I'm specifically talking about like how to elevate the emotional stakes of someone who is like, across the bar from you. So a lot of that really comes from my experience and, subverting expectations, creating something with somebody that is like investing in their time, because just by virtue of being at your bar, they are invested, and it is your job to kind of set the table to create that experience with them. So I'm going to go through the 12 steps of the hero's journey and then just kind of spitball with you guys like what those experiences are.
Yeah,
to
Mike,
the
Mike and I have
experience
done 12 steps too.
Shut up, John. You're just on one tonight, man.
I included myself.
Wait, yeah. Is this a hero's journey or an intervention? What are you doing here? Come on.
Intervention.
No, I do want to hear this.
Man.
I'm
Okay.
actually very excited for this.
So we're going to start off with this. So the number one step, so the 12-step journey is the call to adventure. So what is the call to adventure? Well, in storytelling, it's like the first indication of there is something out there that needs to be accomplished. Now, in the like Lord of the Rings, Frodo's given this ring, but he doesn't know what to do with it, and Gandalf is like, "Oh no, this is some evil shit. Like, we need to figure out what's going on.
Keep it secret. Keep it safe. Put it in a chest for 10 years."
Yes. Yeah. He was gone for 10 years. And like, and the second step is refusal of the call, which is like, so let's go, a call to adventure is like, oh man, like there's this new spot, or like I've been really wanting to go out, but like, damn, like I got a kid and I got, money's tight, like, but I keep eating the same like chicken salad every week, and like I need something to spice things up in my life. I want to have like a good meal. So that's what I feel like the call to adventure starts with the individual. So like they're at, we all like nice stuff. Everyone deserves to have nice things once in a while. Is that not a call for something unique and something like out of the ordinary?
Break the monotony, yeah.
Yes. And then the number 2 step is the refusal of the call. Well, certainly we can't do it this week because we had to get the transmission fixed in the car or whatever. Like, we can't afford a meal. But like, I had a really stressful week at work, and I did get a bonus because of it. So maybe I'll go. Like, the initial, like the stakes already of someone sitting at your bar is that they had to overcome everything else to get to that point. Do you understand? Like, do you understand what I'm saying by that?
Yeah,
like,
100%.
So they had to, fight just the fact that a lot of times when you go out, it's not as good as you want it to be. I deal with a lot of that, and like I refuse the call a lot. So when I like actually go, like, it is an investment of my time, which is the most valuable thing for me. The third step is meeting the mentor, which this seems to be like a little ambiguous for me to I'm not gonna lie, the thread is like a little thin, but I'm imagining this is like the meeting of the mentor is a recommendation you have from a friend or an article that you read and about this place.
It is so funny you said that, because I'm seeing like a commercial pop up. Come on down to Big Willie's. That's exactly
Big Willie's pickle basket.
Big house toy barn.
This is it. This is
that is great. That's
this is the person. He's like, you need to get up right now and come down to Flanagan's. Yes, Big Daddy. The next step is crossing the threshold. So really, that is like that is him saying, yes, Big Daddy, I will come down to Flanagan's.
I found a parking spot finally.
Wait. That's number
sorry.
5.
I'm so sorry. Great segue.
Which is tests, allies, and enemies. So finding a parking spot definitely could be, the lack of parking spots could be an enemy. The traffic, the babysitter canceling last minute, or
your buddy's saying, yeah, I'd love to go. I've been wanting to go with too. I'll join you. Yeah.
Completely ghosts you. Or
the allies,
or the opposite, right? The allies, right? And yes, so that's number 5. Number 6, the approach of the innermost cave.
Ooh,
which
what kind of
I
bar
imagine.
is this?
So I think that this is
God
the
damn it,
innermost
Mike,
cave.
You started this, man.
I ruined it.
So I imagine this is, you have made it to your destination, right? And you have decided to go to Flanagan's despite the lack of parking. But Bill was going to come with you, and like this is the first time you've hung out with him in a long time. And so you're like, all right, we're going to do it. We're going to park 5 blocks away. We're going to pay $20. We're actually going to do it, and you walk all the way, and halfway there, you're like, man, was this a huge fucking mistake? Like, I literally could be at home right now, like having some really good chicken salad. Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I don't have to drive.
Like, yes, like I could be eating chicken salad right now, and it'd be fucking awesome. At least better than this, because I had to endure all this bullshit, and yet you make it. And I think that really segues into the 7, which is the ordeal. So this is where I feel like where the hospitality individual, like delivering hospitality, is like part of this. So the ordeal for me is like navigating the the complete overload of like being in a new place, and finding what you want and ordering it and being satisfied with it, because this is a very delicate dance. I like genuinely think that like how people, enter in a space, feel comfortable, sit down, look at a menu. There's so many things that are interfering with their ability to be satisfied. And like, it's our job as hosts to like remove all the bullshit and just like carve this perfect path. And really, for me, that is like the biggest part of the ordeal, is that like we finally got someone there, and like where and like how they get from being at our table to feeling happy is like the hardest part. So, but they also need. Go ahead.
I was going to say, for me, I think that is the innermost cave. The literally actually finally going, and you're sitting down either at the bar or at your seat, to where all the tests and everything that brought you up to there, you're finally at the innermost cave, and now you're there to slay the dragon, which is the experience, right? And a lot of that does depend on the hospitality workers. A lot of it depends on you too. Just a quick anecdote. We went for my stepmother's birthday to a place that we go to for years. It's a staple in the area. They had a bad night. We were there for 3 hours. My brother never even got his plate of food. But even though that was disappointing, we spent 3 hours with our family that we don't see regularly, and we had a great time. And we sat and we laughed, and we had a great time, and we didn't care that the service. We actually were laughing about it. So I think, yes, it is the hospitality worker's job to lay that out. But if you're not a dick, you can still have a good time, even if there are things that are beyond your server or bartender's control.
Yeah, absolutely. And like as a server or bartender, communicating those problems helps helps a lot, and obviously like the pretense of like having the family to talk to, like that helps, and being there to have a good time is really important.
I didn't mean to derail you, because I love what you're doing with this.
I absolutely. And like every journey is different. And like, I think that like at the end of this, like all it is like, how do we connect people to having a good experience and like feeling fulfilled, right? And I just think and this is just interesting. Like this is just bullshit that I thought of, right? So like, the coming through it is
it makes sense.
important. So the right, so like the reward is the next step. So usually that like in like the steps or whatever, it refers to like either knowledge gained or like a physical object after the ordeal.
Self triumph.
Yeah, like you actually you committed something. And from a storytelling perspective, how I'm relating this to bartending, it's like leading your guests in an experience that of discovery. Like I often tell people, like, so much of what I value in serving is like subverting expectations, because you can have a very similar experience wherever you are, but like when you're a cocktail bartender, you have a lot more tools at your disposal typically to subvert expectations and succeed them too. So like whenever someone asks for a dealer's choice cocktail, they're like, oh hey, do you do a dealer's choice cocktail? I'm like, yeah, of course. Usually there's like a parameter of like, oh, what kind of spirit, what are you looking for, what do you like, what do you don't like. I don't like to do that. I like to subvert expectations, and I usually do that with like a very simple question. It's mostly a binary. Do you want something funky fresh, or do you want something silky smooth? That is it. So someone said, do you do a dealer's choice cocktail? I say, yes. I have one question for you. Do you want something funky fresh, or do you want something silky smooth?
I'm already intrigued. I've got to try both sides of the coin, honestly.
Exactly. Most do.
Which one are you, though? Which one are you?
Oh, funky fresh first.
Yeah, I'm so
I gotta. Yeah, that's fine. That's good.
I love that. And because like I see that how people react is like I'll make some informed decisions, and then like the net, like if they seem not bought in, right? Like if they seem like a little hesitant, I'd be like, is there anything that you like absolutely hate? Like
then you start the whole Madrusin cocktail dialogue of like, what's your spirit? What are your dietary?
But I don't. I try to. Like, of course, you have allergies. Like, I don't want to give you anything.
Also, if you're coming in and asking for a dealer's choice cocktail, you better not be an asshole about it.
Well, right, yeah. I mean, they're at that point.
Like, they are.
Well, fuck them then. Drink it, asshole, and enjoy it.
I hate when they play Stump the Bartender.
No, I love it. And I, but mostly because I boil it down to a funky fresh or silky smooth binary, and yeah. So anyway, so that like subversion of expectation creates these incredible moments of opportunity and storytelling, right? Like you are creating emotional stakes for them in that moment. You are setting the table for like something that could be good or at least interesting. If it's not good, if it's not good, it's at least interesting. So you're winning on both fronts. And which like reminds me like another aspect of this that when I'm training bartenders, that's so much of what you're doing. You have to know what you're doing, right? But you also have to feel what you're doing. It is so much half and half of knowing and feeling, because someone is spending their time to be entertained. Hospitality is like a special experience that you participate in, whether or not you feel it is like, it is true, and it's ancient, and it's an ancient rite, and we get to engage with it, and being able to connect with people is like a really, really cool thing. Like even the word hospitality comes like specifically from like the word for stranger. Like you don't get to do this if you know them that well, right? Like there's something special about serving someone that you do not know.
Yeah.
In fact, like, go ahead.
No, go on. No, go on.
I was just gonna say, like, hospitality like shares a root word for stranger as well as enemy. Like hostile and hospitality and hospital. All these things come from the root word that means stranger or enemy, which is like a love of someone who is not you, care for someone who is not part of your whole thing. I think that's just very special and interesting. And the fact that they're there that you are creating these emotional stakes, and that you have an opportunity to like really show them that the money that they're spending is worth their time.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if your funky fresh or silky smooth changes on the night based on the person, or I mean, it's not just one drink binary, right?
Correct.
I mean,
Absolutely.
2 drink, right? All right.
Yeah, absolutely. It is written on their faces the moment that I say it, and their reaction to it is like when I start thinking about what it is.
All right, cool. Because I love that, because that is it's not like, well, what kind of liquor? It's like you could go off this whole laundry list of but it's like, well, you want something funky fresh or silky smooth? It's like, ooh, yes, I don't know, exactly. But I'm intrigued now.
Yeah, yeah, and like does it hit every time? Is it good? I like to think so. Is it interesting? Definitely. Like I'm confident in creating an experience that is worthwhile, and I think that really comes from the emotional stakes of it, right? So like that's why it comes back to the hero's journey. Did someone trust me enough to say yes, I'm going to do this, and was the reward worth the ordeal? Often, yeah, like way majority, yes, because they were buying into this experience with someone that, like, I think some of the worst experiences I've ever had was like someone walk up to you, like just saunter up to the bar and just like look right through you and just be like, where's your bourbons at? just like bro, right I'm right.
What beers are on
here? Like, I'm just talk to me. Like, you can't even get this shit without talking to me. Just talk to me. Like, I'm right here. Like, anyway, so really, and like, and to be fair to that guy, whoever you are out there,
but you specifically, he's talking specifically about you.
I'm talking about you.
If you're second guessing, it is you.
It is you.
I remember your fucking face. I'm saying that it's not all your fault. Like, I get it. Sometimes you go,
but it's not yours.
yeah, that time it was. Well, like sometimes you go out and like the people who you're interacting with aren't as engaged as like you might have wanted or whatever. So the lack of trust and the lack of emotional stakes creates a bland experience, right? So elevating those emotional stakes really, I think, is the key to making like memorable hospitality experiences. And also Joseph Campbell thinks compelling, storytelling. So
yeah, I love that.
But yeah, so after that we have the reward, which is like you gain this knowledge or this experience. The road back, you got to go all the way home, and you have to find your car. You have to like go get burgers because you had too many silky smooths, and and then you have the resurrection. This is a very interesting one. So in the storytelling, the resurrection is like the point of like clarity and the transformation, the emotional transformation of the protagonist or the hero, that they've like not only have learned something, but they have changed because of it. Which to me is like, man, I had like, ever had like a hospitality experience where you're like, I can't believe everything that happened last night was just so much fun. I got to see my friend that I hadn't seen for a long time, and the bartenders like showed me something so wild, and they took me in the back and to the place where they have like their vintage bottles, and we got to taste some crazy shit. Like, and then we ran into someone who was like a douchebag, but he like drove us to his other bar in a Maserati, and that was interesting.
I need to go out with you more often. Jeez.
This happened to me last November in Nashville. We were just at a bar. We met some guy, and it was so funny. I was with Josh, and we were drinking with this. We were having dinner, drinking. And we met this couple that was sitting next to us, and we were talking about going to this bar on the east at Nashville, and they were like, "Well, we're going that way. You want us to give you a ride?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And then as soon as we left, Josh said, "We're going to take your Maserati," just as a joke, and the guy literally had a fucking Maserati. We were like, "What?"
Wait, he just
Yes.
said that because of the guy's personality and the way he dressed. He was just like, "Well, we're going to take your Maserati," and oh man,
Yes.
he got a
Yes.
boner immediately.
Yes.
He's like, "Oh, I can't wait to show them this car."
Yeah.
Oh my god,
No,
so
man,
good.
it was I can't there's been so many moments in my life that have just been too strange to be fiction,
Like
and that is one of
serendipity.
them. And it
That's pretty
fucking was a
awesome.
Maserati.
Beautiful.
Anyway, so then the 11th step is the return. So after the transformation, you return to your homestead and you share the knowledge of like, oh man, Flanagan's really hit the spot and like you really need to go, and you actually become the mentor, I guess, in that moment, and spread the word of the knowledge. And then the last is the freedom to live, which is an interesting one, which is, I guess, like you just
That's
really
post hangover.
yeah, you're really starting to have that clarity of like, man, that was a good time, but I'm definitely looking forward to having some chicken salad.
Yeah, well, no, really though, those times in your life that break you out of the monotony, that it does. It reminds you why you're doing all this stuff. You know, those times with your friends and family or whoever it is, but those meaningful things, you can truly come back and look at the next monotonous day with a fresh new set of eyes. You really, really can.
Yeah, absolutely. Like an incredible meal, an incredible time with friends sustains you. And like that's something that I try to tell younger hospitality professionals who are frustrated sometimes with people who get frustrated easily, or who are like very particular, like, oh, can we move tables, like who just start moving tables. And it's like, hey man, they don't get to do this ever, like, and like at least meet them halfway, like try to understand that this is a special time for them.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they're here right now is like a very special time for you too, because you get to participate in that.
Well,
And like you can meet it with whatever kind of intention, but if you go in it with an intention of like creating a special moment, then you can take a little bit more pride in what you do.
you embody hospitality in that sense, because there are, different strokes for different folks, but there are so many people that are in it just because they need the money, yada yada yada. There's nothing wrong with that, but looking at it from that, it's a selfless point of view, and you truly are the embodiment of what the service industry is, to serve someone else and to take pride in that, and to be able to step outside of yourself for a moment and realize that you're curating a special memory that is going to help this person sustain them and their friends and their family going on into the next day. So I think that's really, really cool. I really love the parallels you drew with that.
Thanks, man. I really like hospitality. I think that when I am at my like peak Devin, it's like I'm throwing a party at my house. I'm cooking for 30 people. I have drinks flowing like crazy. People are all just talking to each other, and no one's having a bad time. And like, to me, I'm at like my most peaceful and fulfilled when people are around me that are eating and drinking and being with each other. So like the fact that I get to do it in any capacity in the hospitality industry is, it might be a selfish one, but it is one that motivates me to be better,
If that's selfish, then fine. Because I've thought about that too. Because like I like opening the door for people because it makes me feel good to show them respect. You know what? If that's selfish, then fucking so be it. Be selfish that way. If you're going to be selfish, then do it in a way that you're contributing to somebody else's life. So,
Devin, thank you for coming back on the show. This is why we had to have you back. Really thought provoking, like absolutely. I love the journey.
I really want to read one more thing. This is the quote that Joseph Campbell had in his a quote from A Hero with a Thousand Faces.
All right, hit me with a quote, and I got a final question for you.
Yeah, you got it. A hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered, and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons to their community.
Man,
Oh, yeah.
I had
I love
some
the
Jean-Luc Picard like space.
Number one.
I love that he dropped fabulous in there. That was great.
Fabulous Forces, and I was like, that's a cocktail name.
that's a gay bar name. That's a strip club name is what that is.
Be anything you want it to be. Yeah, that's good. That is a very good quote. Devin, usually at the end of the episode, we ask guests what their favorite shift is or was, and you told us yours. So we're gonna ask you what your favorite D&D moment is from a campaign that you either led as a DM or played in as a player. What was that moment that was a defining one at the table?
Oh man. Another just like I'm gonna try to think of a very good one, but I think that the defining moment that I had, we completed the I was running a game. It was the what was it called? Dragon Heist. Yeah, so Waterdeep campaign. It was fun, adventurous, and it was the end of the campaign where they had to defeat a gold dragon that was at the in the sewers of Waterdeep or whatever, amongst this giant horde, and I was DMing, and my adventuring party, which was my cousin, my brother, and and my brother's friend, and they had like defeated the dragon, which was like at the skin of their teeth, and they had this huge like amount of like treasure that they could take back, and they knew that someone else, I don't want to spoil Dragon Heist or anything like that, but there was another powerful figure that was like hipped to what they were doing, and all the indicators that I tried to put out, like go back to your base, like you need to be there, take what you can, like get out of there, like shit's about to go down. I had like people tell them like, oh, so and so is going to be here, like you need to get out of here, and they all left, and they're like, well, we're going to go back for more treasure. And I was like, okay, all right. And they got there, and the other like optional big bad was there, and they're like, I guess we're going to try to kill him. I'm like, it's the same, you just defeated a gold dragon.
No rest or anything, right?
I mean, like maybe a short rest, but like after a gold dragon at level, I don't know, 6 or 7, like what do you got left? And I was like, hey, go for it. And just my brother's character, the goblin rogue, managed to escape. The others were defeated so handedly that, and like the thing was like, okay, the bold greed was so fun that they like charged almost like headlong into the most impossible situation, that the whole premise of the thing was about greed, right? And they fell victim to it, and it just left a really interesting end that like we're like, what, one day we'll come back to this, and maybe that'll be like a dragon heist of like breaking the characters out of jail or whatever. They didn't die, they got captured by this by this force, and it's just like, it was so interesting to see them make that decision, and then like, that's it, that's the end, like we did it. Like we all agreed like that was the end. You guys fucked up real bad. One just managed to get away, and like it's that, to me, underlines like the beauty of D&D, that like we can walk away from that as like a satisfying story. Hey, we lost. Wasn't that fun?
Let's get up and do it tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. God, I wish I wish
that is a parallel to hospitality, if I have ever heard one.
Listen to your DM and listen to your bartender. If he's saying, I think you've had too much, buddy, just take his fucking word for it, man. Don't walk down the street to the next bar.
Here's your tab, cash out, take your gold, go back to the hideout.
You will wind up in jail. That's what will happen.
It might be a story. Emotional stakes, man. I'm telling you, it's real.
Oh God, Devin, thank you for that. That was incredible. We like to end the show with some shout outs, and I know that you have some shout outs. You want to give some love to some homies. So I'll start with you. What you got for us?
Yeah, Josh and Gene are Open Up Mean Jeans. Hopefully within the next man, it's seriously just a few more weeks. So keep a lookout. It's a really sexy bar, but like a cocktail dive. That's what they're calling themselves, and I think it really embodies like everything I love about a good cocktail haunt. Also, I'm shouting out to Spice Trail. This is the I don't know if I gave that to you yet, but it's it's okay. It's a project that I've been working on in Chattanooga. Incredible, like modern Indian bistro that has been open for 2 years just for lunch, and I was brought on to create a bar program and train some people and get this thing open, and that is opening on the 10th of September. So things are like starting to get real spicy.
Yep. You're there.
I know. And I have a business. Yeah, so Convenient Cocktail too. If you don't know, I make garnishes. Beautiful cocktails. Easier is her thing. And yeah, come say hi. ConvenientCocktail.com. It's what I do. I make garnishes for people, and I guess I make them for drinks, but you know, for the people too.
Mike, what do you have for us tonight?
You know, honestly, I'm going to shout out Dungeons and Dragons because I'm serious. I know that, you know, and congrats to Bardtenders. You guys are recently listed top 6 on FeedSpot's top 2024 bartending podcast to listen to. So that's fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
But the parallel that you drew between hospitality and being a customer versus bartender to the hero's journey, I can't tell you how much not only playing Dungeons and Dragons with friends, but being a dungeon master has given me a lens to which I view life through. It's made me, I genuinely feel like it's made me a better person, because when you, like, being a character is one thing, and then trying to run the game, you've learned to take so much more respect for the game that you normally take for granted. Being the player is so easy, and you expect it all to go this way, and then actually being the dungeon master, it shows you this whole other side of things. And it shows you your shitty aspects when you were a player. And you're like, oh man, the dungeon master was just trying to make it to where everybody had a good time. So I guess my point is, I know this is, you know, mainly a bartending podcast, but if you've never played D&D, go to your local game store, find some friends, make some time, just give it a shot, give it a try. And if you like it, try your hand at dungeon mastering one time, because it's not just a silly game. It really is. It's a special, you know, collective storytelling experience that you can't get in any other type of game or other. There's really nothing else like it. There really isn't. So I just really like the parallels you drew on that. And yeah, give D&D a chance if you haven't before.
Hell yeah. I love that. I have a shout out. It's for my favorite podcast. It's called Bardtenders. You're probably listening to it right now. You're probably watching it right now. You can check us out on social media at Bardtenders. You can check us out at our website at www.bardtender.com. You can reach out to us via email at contact@bardtender.com, or I'm giving you consent to slide into our DMs. Hit us up on social media. We love hearing from you.
The innermost cave.
Okay. End of this episode an hour ago. Yeah, you have my consent.
Give me more deal.
We love to hear from you. We'd love to have you on the show, whether it's rolling dice or joining an episode on Mixing Glass like Devin did to talk about Convenient Cocktail Company, or some amazing perspectives into the hospitality world. And if you haven't yet, we love 5-star reviews, 5 stars only, anything less, and you're just a bad person. You're probably that person that Devin had at the bar. He's talking about you. That's where it is. But 5 stars, 5 stars only. We love to hear from you. Leave those reviews and drop us some comments. Devin, thank you again for being on the show. It was absolutely incredible. I'm so glad we had you back for a second episode, and I think we'll probably see some more of you in the future with some dice rolling at this point.
Ooh, I'd love
Time to actually get some bones rolling. Amazing. Well, I think it's time to clock out. How do we feel?
Clock out and level up, I think.
Clock out and level up. Let's do it. See you next time, guys.
See ya.